Are you running big tires on your Jeep JL or JT stock axles? Well, we may have a solution for a problem that's probably going to come up. Hey everybody, it's Bo with X's Jeeps, and we build badass Jeeps. When Jeep released the JL Wrangler platform, they made a lot of improvements over the previous design. And one of the best improvements that they made was clearance at the fender wells, particularly in the Rubicon models with the Highline fenders. Folks could go out and get a JL Rubicon, throw a 2-inch lift and 37s on it, and hit the trails almost immediately. Way cheaper than they could on the JKs. But folks didn't stop there. They went a little bit higher and they started throwing 40s on them and going out and driving them around. Not gonna recommend you do that on stock axles. But if you are, just be real careful. Don't hit the trails too hard, maybe some light park roads, stuff like that, and you'll be okay. Pretty much what this person does. This is Misfit Jeeper on Instagram. Throw that tag up right here, so make sure you go and follow her.
Hi everybody, my name is Gina. I am from the San Antonio, New Braunfels, Texas area. I am here to tell you about my 2019 JL Rubicon. We have a 4.5-inch Terraflex lift, 3.1 Falcon shocks, Falcon steering stabilizer dampener, 88 front and rear bumpers. The inner fenders by Burnt Customs have 17-inch Pro Comp wheels along with the Cooper Discover 40-inch tires. I'm excited to tell you about the recent modifications done by Exodus Jeeps, Bubba and his people.
Dave hit me up and he said, hey man, you know anybody that's got some 40-inch tires on stock axles? I said,
hell yeah, I do.
And he said, well, I'm going to send you a set of ball joints. I want you to put them in there and let's test them out.
My latest modification is Synergy Manufacturing heavy-duty adjustable ball joints installed by Bubba and his folks down at Exodus Jeeps. As you all know, Jeepers like to put big tires on their Jeeps. And these are by no means stock tires. It adds extra stress to various parts of the vehicle, including the ball joints, which is where we're going to go today.
She's running some 40-inch Cooper STT Pros, not the lightest tire on the market.
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
What's that going to do to the rest of the Jeep? You know, as long as you're not hitting the trails, probably not going to break the ring of pinion, probably not going to break any axle shafts. But one thing you can't avoid is ball joint wear. And today we're going to unbox Synergy Manufacturing's brand new adjustable ball joint specifically made for the JL Wrangler and the JT Gladiator. They showed up the other day. They look great. They're built great.
Looks great.
And at first glance, you almost can't tell the difference between an upper and lower ball joint. So be real careful. The difference is going to be right here on the shaft itself. Upper ball joint is going to be a little bit longer on the threads than the lower ball joint, as you can see. So be real careful when you're installing these that you don't get them mixed up.
Because
this is like super dangerous.
Safest place is in the Jeep.
Oh shit.
Maybe not.
be real careful when you're installing.
You're gonna be pressing out ball joints again and moving them around. So let's go take a look.
So y'all may be familiar with the Synergy Manufacturing JK kit. This is essentially the same kit. However, along with having a lower ball joint that's adjustable, you now have an upper adjustable ball joint as well.
At first glance, everything looks pretty much just like it did on the JK. You'll notice that it's different because it does have aluminum knuckles, but the principles are the same. The drag link goes here, tie rod goes here, ball joints go here. The only added extra step that we're really going to see here is the removal and reinstallation of the FAD device. And what that's going to allow us to do is remove the axle shaft and reinstall it correctly once the job is complete. But basically it's going to be just like any other ball joint job. We remove the brakes, remove the rotor, the unit bearing, and the axle shaft out of here, and then Blake can remove the steering knuckle and press the old ball joints out, press the new ones in. Now he's going to kind of walk you through some of the critical steps here, but more importantly he's going to show you the removal and installation procedures and the proper torquing procedures necessary for these ball joints.
First thing you want to do is remove the caliper with a 21mm socket. Next thing you want to do is remove the rotor. There's a T30 Torx bit right here that you want to unbolt. You want to go ahead and remove the ABS sensor with the 5mm. Then after that, remove the unit bearing bolts. It's going to be a 12.13mm. So once you have those 3 bolts out, you can go ahead and pull the shaft. Make sure you pull your sensor out. Next, you're going to remove these 2 steering linkages at the knuckle. Just drop those out of the way. Now we're going to remove the cotter pins from the factory ball joints. So once you have those cotter pins removed, you can go ahead and remove the factory ball joint nuts. I usually take the top one completely off and then start to unthread the bottom one, but leave it on. You want to make sure to save the nuts because those are going to be reused. Remove this dust shield with 3 10mm bolts. All right, so we got the top nut off, we got the bottom nut loose and drop down a little bit. So what you're going to do is hit the knuckle right on this flat spot here with the hammer until it breaks free. Just like that. There's a sleeve in the top of the knuckle which you're going to remove and save. And just remove it, set it to the side. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start pressing out the ball joints. Both the upper and the lower press out from the top. So you're gonna wanna press from the top down. So there's the upper ball joint, and the lower comes out the exact same way. And there's the lower. So before you install the aftermarket ball joints, you don't wanna press the whole assembly in as one piece. You actually want to take them apart so you don't damage it. So basically what you want to do is, I've already done half of it, but you want to bend these tabs up out of these sections here to where you can actually unscrew it. So you want to unscrew it and you're just going to press the top portion in so you don't damage any of this. So set this off to the side for now. So we're going to go ahead and press in the lower ball joint first. I like to use a little bit of anti-seize. It's not necessary, but it just makes the installation go smoother, and if they ever do need to be removed, they'll come out easier. So we're going to go ahead and press in the lower ball joint. You want to make sure that you're pressing it in even and square. Most ball joint installation kits will come with the proper cups to do it correctly. The installation of the upper ball joint, again, you're going to want to disassemble it before you install it so you don't damage any components. Pretty much the same procedure. You might need a different cup for the top because this lower C is angled a little bit. So the cup on top is going to need to be flat. So we're going to go ahead and assemble the lower ball joint. So the upper and lower ball joint are slightly different. The lower is going to have the shorter threaded section. So we're going to go ahead and insert this piece. You want to make sure there's a groove right here. You want to make sure to line that up correctly with the roll pin on the inside of the top portion of the ball joint. So you can thread it up most of the way by hand. If it stops and there's a bigger gap between the top and the bottom section, you probably don't have that piece lined up with the roll pin correctly. So pull that back out and just make sure you have it oriented correctly. But this one's installed right, so we're going to go ahead and torque it. So you're going to grab a torque wrench and you're going to torque that to either 15 foot-pounds or 180 inch-pounds. All right, that's it. Pretty much the same procedure with the upper ball joint. All right, so once you have the ball joints torqued correctly, you're going to want to line up 2 tabs to push up in these slots and then 2 tabs to push down. Same with the upper. That's pretty much it. Now your ball joints are assembled and installed, and we're going to go back into reassembly. So now that we got the ball joints in, we're going to go ahead and install the knuckle back in place. You can go ahead and slide this slug in to the top, orienting it correctly. We're going to go ahead and tighten the lower ball joint a little bit, not more than about 30 foot-pounds. So once your lower ball joint is snug, you're gonna wanna take a small hammer and tap this slug into the knuckle just a little bit, being careful not to damage any threads or anything. Switch sides. Let's go back and forth a little bit. All right, so you're gonna wanna torque your upper ball joint with a 7/8 socket to 80 foot-pounds. And then move to the lower, and it also gets torqued to 80 foot-pounds. And just retorque the upper and the lower. And you're gonna wanna orient the hole in the stud so you can put the cotter pin in there. You never wanna loosen it to line up. You always wanna tighten it just a little bit. All right, so installation is pretty much complete of the ball joints. Now we just need to go into reinstallation of the axle shafts and the steering.
Well, that wraps up the installation. As you can see, it's not too terribly difficult, but a little bit time consuming. Go ahead and set aside about 4 hours total for the installation and the adjustment. This is a pretty great option. Talking about $500 for a set of adjustable and rebuildable ball joints. We've been installing those same ball joints on JKs for a while now, and we've had great success with them. No callbacks of any kind. Part number is gonna be 4128. That's for the non-knurled version. If you want the knurled version, 4128KN. It also beats the alternative. There are some other ball joints out there that are rebuildable, but they cost a little bit more and they're not adjustable. So that's the great thing about these, is that as they wear a little bit, we just get in there, tighten them up a little bit and keep on trucking. We'll be able to get lots and lots of miles out of these ball joints, especially with customers like this that are running big, heavy tires on those stock axles.
Because this is my daily driver and these are such big tires, I can now drive with confidence with these heavy duty ball joints installed. And I also have the confidence of knowing that I can go in and adjust them once they become loose. Big shout out to Bubba and his crew at Exodus Jeeps. Not only did they do a great job, they also had a quick turnaround. Although this was a routine modification, they were just as excited as I was to be doing it, showing that they are not only mechanics, fabricators, but also Jeep enthusiasts.
For more videos on cool stuff like this, click here.